Reporting for a better world. Build trust with stakeholders by reporting with confidence, so you can walk the talk in driving business value while delivering profit and purpose. The Workiva ESG solution gives you what you need for trusted, transparent reporting. Browse our ESG Explorer to compare multiple frameworks in one place, and access built-in templates so you don't have to report from scratch, even as your needs evolve to meet changing expectations. Empower your team to automate the collection of a full range of ESG data, collaborate across geos, and create disclosures on demand. Plus, seamlessly embed links to show evidence of your progress. Capture change history with a complete audit trail for assurance, and set controls for authorship with accountability for reporting your stakeholders can trust. See how you can transform your ESG reporting and deliver investor-trusted, board-ready, and audit-ready ESG reporting with Workiva.
Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone. Welcome to another installment of ISV Success Live. It's an honor to have Nathan from Workiva joining me today. But before we get started, as we normally do, let me give a few quick housekeeping items just to get started. So first off, thank you. If you're watching live, truly appreciate you making the time on a Monday, wherever you're watching from, to listen and learn about the BizApps ISV community. We do these every Monday really to surface up and to share all the amazing innovation and IP that our BizApps ISVs are driving in our ecosystem. And Workiva is no different in regards to sustainability, financial reporting, ERG and GRC. And you might not know what those acronyms stand for, but Nathan and myself will go through that in a lot more detail. So as we're having the conversation, the first and foremost thing I always like to do is have people comment where they're watching from or where you're watching from. So if you want to just go into the LinkedIn experience and type in, maybe you're watching from the West Coast, from Seattle, Washington, where I'm doing this from. Maybe you're on the East Coast, from like where Nathan is doing this from, or anywhere in between. We love to just comment and do a shout out at the very beginning as to where you're watching from. The second is that if you have a question, if the conversation between Nathan and I sparks something that you're more curious about, feel free to type that in the LinkedIn window and we'll catch that. And towards the end, there might be opportunity for me to ask Nathan a live question coming from the people watching from the audience. And finally, during the conversation, if there's something that's resonating, feel free to utilize one of the emoji icons in LinkedIn, like, support, etc., because that also gives us indication that the information that we're sharing is actually relevant and striking a chord with the people watching. So without further ado, Nathan, welcome to the show. I do want to acknowledge too, today is one of those days we'll always remember. For those of you who haven't looked at the calendar, today is 9/11. And it always holds a really a specific thing to me, because we all will remember, even myself, the day where we were on this specific day 22 years ago. And so for me, I was actually on a business trip in Phoenix, Arizona. And I still remember very, very vividly my wife calling me first thing in the morning and saying, "You have to turn on the TV. There's something going on." And it was such a tragedy. And we all just, again, have some story that we can share. But I do want to acknowledge 9/11 and all the people impacted who are still being impacted today by all the tragedy that occurred on that specific day. So with that, Nathan, welcome to the show. Maybe you can start out with, again, a little background on yourself. What is your specific role? What's one thing on your LinkedIn, not on your LinkedIn profile, you're open to sharing? And if you have a story about your 9/11, where you were, maybe you could share that as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian. Thrilled to be here on behalf of all of Workiva. A day of reflection indeed. I had a daily routine where I would wake up before work and log into AOL. So if anyone out there remembers the AOL days, you would log in and there would be a square in the middle of the screen and there would be some sort of image that was newsworthy. Back then, there were no real AI algorithms, so it was, the most popular story in the world, and it was a vision of one of the two towers smoking. And then by the time I was, say, halfway to work to downtown Houston, which is where I live, the second tower had been hit. So Yeah, just always important to take pause today and think about that. We're certainly doing that all day at Workiva globally. So thanks for mentioning that. I'm in Houston. I recently celebrated 4 years at Workiva. Up to that point, I had been a consultant my entire career. I'm a CPA here in Texas. Had been doing consulting work for a while and was introduced through that channel to Workiva and really liked the company and the culture and the platform. And so I made that move 4 years ago. 2 years ago, I took on a new role in alliances, and I specialize in our alliances in what we call growth solutions. So I sit in the incubation arm of Workiva. So anytime we have a new solution that we want to bring to market, it's our team that vets and tests it out and builds out the initial demo environments and does the market research, et cetera. Ultimately, then hopefully to scale it at some point. ESG, you saw the video. Everyone saw the video to kick us off today. That's been a strategic focus of mine, certainly over the last couple of years. So it's good to be here.
Yeah, that's great, Nathan. And thanks for sharing all those stories. And then your background.
I'm sorry. I'll interrupt you. Yeah. I forgot to do the not on my LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Yeah, so people can get to know you outside of.
So here's my go-to move on these fun fact exercises, certainly this year. Is there any more trendy, certainly in pop culture, item these days than Taylor Swift?
Okay.
I have 3 daughters, 19, 17, and 12. And at this point, I just own it. I'm a Swiftie. That's a lot of people don't see that coming, but that's,
love it.
I've totally leaned into it at this point. We went to the concert and all that stuff. So wherever you're watching in the US or around the world, you probably heard something about that. A lot of people don't see that coming from me, but my fun fact is people are typically very, very surprised at how many Taylor Swift songs I know.
Oh, I love it, Nathan. Yeah, I mean, I can't say I'm a Swiftie myself, but I'm a dad of 2 as well. I don't have 3 daughters, but I have 2 daughters, and trying so hard to try to get tickets for that. We did our best to try to. We didn't get it, but it's one of those things. And just paying attention, I'm assuming those the bracelets that I'm assuming you have bracelets. So you're probably not wearing them right now, but
you name it, we got it, man.
I love it. I love it. Well, I won't put you on the spot to sing your favorite song. So I'll.
I was afraid you might.
Yeah,
and I was gonna respectfully decline.
Yeah. I'm sure the people listening to this would probably love to hear that, but maybe we'll say that. If it wasn't
being recorded, I might consider it, but
okay, I don't
want that on tape.
I love it. So let's get started, and I'll do a quick shout out to the people who actually. Let's do that before we get started. So Paula, thank you for making the time. Watching from Nevada. Mark, thank you for watching from Dublin, from Ireland. Again, as you know, one of my favorite places to go visit. Hopefully one day I'll be able to come back and we can have a pint and have dinner again. Jim, thank you for watching from New Hampshire. And John, thank you for watching from Ohio. So again, thank you so much, everyone, for making the time. If you have a question during the event, feel free to put it in the window and we can ask it real time to Nathan, maybe towards the end. So Nathan, why don't we get started with just talking about, for people who've never heard of Workiva before. Of course, we started with a video. We really focused on an area that is one of many places that Workiva really specializes in. But maybe you could spend several minutes really talking about what's the value proposition and the business outcomes that Workiva helps to solve, and in conjunction then with the work that you do with Microsoft across many different things. So.
Yeah, sure. Love to. So we leaned in pretty early with the ESG video. That's just one area in particular that we have, I think, shared aspirations with Microsoft and where this relationship is really starting to take shape. Just not only optimizing customer and client processes and de-risking those and getting teams more actively collaborating from a process perspective, but just the overall purposefulness around sustainability and climate change is something culturally that both companies share. And so I thought that would be a really good video to kind of start with. That is a specialty of mine, as I mentioned recently. Our company, however, is 15 years old this year. And we were founded and essentially went through that initial hyper growth stage with our SEC use case. So if we got some Dynamic 365 users that are either on the call today or maybe watching this recording, financial reporting is kind of our DNA. In the process of actually authoring and controlling and inviting teams in to collaborate around 10Ks and 10Qs that here in the SEC or here in the US are required for all publicly traded companies to actually submit those, tag them with the appropriate taxonomy, in our case XBRL, and then submit those directly to the SEC. The vast majority of the Fortune 1000 publicly traded companies certainly use us for that use case. And so that's kind of where we started. And then from there, it's been a natural series of adjacencies really around that original install base and buying center. So we have Brian mentioned GRC solution, so governance, risk, and controls platform. As you get into more audited mandates, and ESG is increasingly becoming that internal control environment, documenting that, getting those controls tested, the design and effectiveness, operating effectiveness of those controls is very, very important. So we have a solution for that. Then GSR, global statutory reporting. So there's a SEC equivalent in every country around the world that are responsible for, on a legal entity basis, for multinationals, creating a full complement of financial statements and footnotes in accordance with local GAAP. And then similarly to the way we do it in the US, submitting those to those local in-country regulators as well. So we have a platform we call GSR, Global Statutory Reporting, to manage that process. And then ESG is just sort of the latest flavor of what we might call disclosure management, where our customers, we've had a sustainability reporting solution at Workiva for 10 years now, but it's really only recently that the stakes have really been raised in financial services, just the macro pressures that investors are putting on companies to hold their companies accountable, employees, to being responsible corporate citizens from a sustainability perspective. And now regulations, Europe, ESRS and CSRD, the SEC themselves, of course, we feel is imminent. Those climate disclosure rules and ESG disclosure rules are imminent. Probably we're expecting as early as October. So, but the platform itself is really, it's a software as a service. It's a SaaS platform, always has been. And the idea is that those teams come together to collaborate. Version control is automatic. That data, those that own that data wherever they are in the organization can come into the platform and provide that data directly, as well as substantiation and support for it. And then the data is linked out directly to those deliverables, whether it's a 10K or a 10Q or a sustainability report, et cetera. So it's really about control and risk and getting those teams into one central location to control that process. That's kind of where we sit. We have about 6,000 customers. We're in over 100, have users in over 180 countries now.
Gosh, what a great overview, Nathan. I've never been a CFO myself. I've sold to CFOs before, of course, selling in business applications. And you think about the use case of where you started is spot on, because you think about any CFO who's part of a public company, and guess what? This is a core part of their business process. And then you think about this tied to a traditional enterprise resource planning, ERP, or what we refer to as Dynamics, F&O. How do you get those things to come together so that the control and risk and the collaboration and all these things about disclosure management, regulation, and all those things that you just talked about becomes so critical, because you have to have these business processes very tied together ultimately to drive the outcomes in financial reporting. I'm not a CPA, but I know you denoted that you are. All those things have to come together in a very easy to consume manner. So maybe that's a good segue into just the partnership, because of course this partnership started with someone on my team, maybe about a year ago, and it's kind of evolved and really aligned to, during the pre-show, you and I were talking about sustainability. Maybe you could talk about what's the kind of the partnership evolution been like since you've come into the ecosystem. We're building out the use cases and the strategy together to drive value. Maybe you could talk about that, and then the scenarios that really help to align across, and it's just not about Dynamics, but the other areas of Microsoft where Workiva is adding tremendous value. And maybe you could touch on industries too, because I know public companies can be a variance of different industries, but I know that there's various specific industries that you play very well in as in your solutions that you create.
Yeah. No, it's been great. I mean, Paula, who's on the call, she's been fantastic. It really just started, I would say, fundamentally around D365, just because that's a very organic place for us to start our two organizations. I mentioned financial reporting, and that's what we've done really, really well for so long. And the alternative to having a platform like ours is a user community that is, for example, exporting data out of D365 and into desktop environments. And then you are then kind of beholden to email-driven collaboration and all kinds of version control issues, ongoing reconciliation issues. Getting audited is much more difficult when things are scattered around in SharePoint portals and various people's desktops. And the fundamental story between Workiva and Dynamics 365, for example, is to establish that through our API strategy, that direct connection. So that especially during like a month-end close process where journal entries are literally being made, depending on how big the organization is, every hour or even more frequently. So those balances are constantly changing. You're having to explain those to auditors as they're changing in a very tight month-end close cycle. And so by having that persistent connection and that data coming straight into Workiva, it's a very natural, very, very complementary story to our shared users. I mentioned our SEC install base. I mean, we just have the same Office of Controllership that are using both D365 and Workiva. So that's kind of where the story started. We do have an app source, so we'll have this in our call to action, I believe, later on. We can talk a little bit more about it. If you go to App Source and do a search for Workiva, you'll find a couple of entries, one of which is the D365 connector that we put together. So we're super excited about that. And then ESG, I know it keeps coming up. Microsoft Sustainability Manager is another very, very highly complementary platform and point solution for Workiva, in that, for example, we in our platform do not calculate greenhouse gas emissions and the associated emission factors and carbon footprints, basically, to sum it up, like MSM does. So that again is another story where the alternative to having a reporting platform like ours is you're doing those calculations, managing that data, using the power of Power BI to do the advanced analytics, setting your net zero carbon targets and marching against those, and doing a lot of that sustainability and climate type work, and then exporting it out for your reporting. Well, same story. We can connect through Azure, our Azure connector, and that data comes into Workiva and then gets reported on, where we have weighting all of the guidance and reporting and compliance requirements that our shared customers need around CSRD and ultimately with SEC, CDP questionnaire responses, those types of things. So that data is sourced and managed at scale in MSM, and then is aggregated and then connected into Workiva for the sake of reporting. So that is a very complementary story that we're super excited about. And we're having those discussions, and those are ramping as an alliance. And it's also tremendous opportunities for our systems implementers, so our SI channels. We have a lot of the same strategic partners that are very, very interested in bringing this joint story to their clients and implementing it on our behalf. And then on from what you mentioned, the industries or sectors, because our cross section of SEC registrants is so broad, we don't necessarily anchor to a specific sector, although financial services we have been very, very strong there historically, and I know Microsoft has as well. In fact, we've talked to some of those leaders around ESG specifically. And then for things like financed emissions and portfolio management, so if you've got investors, private equity companies that own an entire portfolio, and they're ultimately responsible as to the ESG sustainability reporting for those, and the investors are holding them accountable to those, that's another really great use case. So I would say from a sector perspective, it's financial services, manufacturing, and then we've got some interesting retail stories that we're starting to put together with Microsoft as well.
Yeah, I love it. What a great overview, Nathan. Because again, I was just looking at your website as well. And when you're touching on the financial services side, and you mentioned that capital markets in the processes of M&A, mergers and acquisitions and IPOs and all those things, the complexity of that then allows what you just described. And I loved how you articulated it, which is traditionally what do people do? They take the information out of their business application and they have it go somewhere. And then it's challenging because if it goes in an export into a spreadsheet or multiple SharePoint sites, you lose a lot of that fidelity because then the auditing and the control of it goes all over the place. Versus
yeah. So. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but that is, if there's, if you haven't gotten to know Workiva and you're just getting to know us today, that is the fundamental problem that we really have been solving.
That's great.
For 15 years now. And then it's just a matter of all of the sort of those adjacent point solutions and problems that emerged in our Office of Controllership. But yeah, you nailed it.
Yeah, that's great. Well, good. As I've gotten to know your organization and this area that adds so much value, it is one of those amazing things because when you think about the buyer or the teams that really care about this, I mean, everyone in the organization plays a role, but in particular, it's the CFO and those business analysts and the finance and controllers that are taking all this financial data and trying to put it in a very specific way so that the process and the auditing and all those things come together. Because we can imagine, I've never been, again, in a finance role, but I can't imagine, especially at Microsoft, the amount of stuff that goes on to try to get our 10K all put together or our end of quarter reporting. I mean, it's just astonishing how complex that can be and how you've done it across the companies that I've served. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and just to be clear on the Microsoft, that's maybe a third point worth mentioning aside from our D365 and ESG is our platform from the beginning was built to be super portable with Microsoft Office. So we're not suggesting there is a place for those desktop tools, absolutely. And I would say that the platform works in concert with those to get data in and out. But once that data is on our platform, just from an auditability perspective, every change to a data element in Workiva is permanently memorialized. So if you change an amount $1 to $2, who made that change, the exact time at which that change was made, and what the prior value was, is permanently archived. So that's what you get from a controls perspective, among many others. And then permissioning, we can govern up or down what people can and can't do within the platform as well.
Yeah, that's a good call out, Nathan, because the other thing, of course, that exists for people, and we'll have the site, and Paula had posted it on the site in the LinkedIn feed, but there is another solution IP that's out there that synchronizes Workiva to Excel, because we know that the most popular productivity tool in the space of, especially in financial reporting, whether people like it or not, is Excel. People use it all the time. And that synchronization, to your point, becomes valuable because if someone is doing something in Excel and pushing it into your Workiva platform, to your point, then it's memorialized. Then at least there's still an audit trail and all those things that things are happening and changing and all that stuff, and you can continue to see what's happening. So let me do a quick shout out. There was someone else that had joined as well live. So Dennis, thank you for making the time watching from India, because of course this is a global audience. We have people from around the world listening and watching either live or the replay. So thanks, Dennis, for making the time. So with the about 5 minutes we have left, Nathan, why don't we talk about a little bit about next steps? I mean, how do people learn more? And then you touched upon it too, like for people listening who maybe you're a software integrator, you're one of the many Microsoft implementers doing work on a kind of customer's behalf, of course, in partnership with us, deploying Dynamics, especially in finance scenarios. Maybe we can talk about how do people learn more? What are opportunities for either Microsoft sellers who are finding these opportunities and realizing, oh, well, my customer has this type of challenge because, of course, you just nailed it in how you explain the use case scenario. Or you have software implementers going into these deployments and realizing, oh, well, geez, the customer has this requirement. And here's a great ISV like Workiva that actually can solve it. So maybe you can touch upon some of the next steps and how do people learn more?
Yeah, just a quick note. I'm glad you raised that one again. We are a partner first implementation model at Workiva. So when our sales teams are talking to prospects about an implementation and that conversation comes up in the sales cycle, we immediately lean into our partner channel. And there's you can go out to our website and learn all about kind of who some of those players are. You could probably name them off the top of your head, most folks watching, but that is a really, really important part of our strategy is driving not only opportunities, but delivery excellence through that partner network. And that's across all of our solutions. And so that's another strategy that we share with Microsoft. And this particular relationship is super exciting to those, and they're actually helping us formulate that joint story. And it sounds a bit cliche, but our website actually is a really good place, a resource to find out some things. We have a support, Workiva support. It's an easy Google, publicly available. It's got a remarkable amount of features and functions and searchability, and just in terms of platform user experience, from the most high level to the most detailed in terms of what, if you don't understand or don't know Workiva, what it might be like from a user perspective. From an ESG standpoint, we have Mandy McReynolds as our Chief Sustainability Officer, and she's got a podcast called ESG Talk, which is a great resource if you want to learn more specifically about the ESG portion of it. We'll also be at the United Nations climate change conference called COP28. So if anyone's on the call or is watching this, and I know Microsoft's going to have a presence there as well, and so we're talking to them about how we might collaborate there as well. But those are just a few of the things that I would recommend from a next step. If you are on the call now, or you listen to the recording and you are a systems integrator or implementer, and you don't have a natural channel into Workiva, just contact me directly, and I'd be happy to help.
Yeah, that's great, Nathan. So because we're doing this on LinkedIn, of course, you have Nathan's LinkedIn profile as you're kind of streaming this. You can click on that. Feel free either to send either of us a connection request or a message if there's interest in learning more, but of course, directly going to Nathan and the Workiva team. We flashed up here, of course, one site that talks about the ESG reporting, but if you just go to workiva.com, wealth of information that goes a lot deeper into what Nathan was describing. And then as Paula denoted in the LinkedIn feed, this is, again, if you want to take a screenshot and go to it later, this goes to the core of the scenario and solution that Nathan was describing on the integration that exists between the Dynamics, our Dynamics platform tied to the Workiva platform together. So with that being said, Nathan, as we wrap up, any last comments or things that you want to tie off on before, again, for people who missed the video at the very beginning, we'll run it at the end as well to kind of wrap up the show. But Nathan, anything you wanted to specifically call out before we?
No, I mean, just a genuine thanks to you, Brian, and Paula has been fantastic, dating well over a year, and it's just really been great. And I'm not just patronizing here. Like, we are super excited about this relationship and where we're headed. So no, everybody stay tuned. If you have any questions, reach out to me directly.
I love it. Well, thank you so much, Nathan and Workiva, for, again, the investment. Super grateful for the partnership that we are embarking together to drive amazing value, especially in regards to the scenarios we talked about on financial reporting, sustainability, GRC, ECG, all the amazing things that we just talked about in the quick 30. It's hard to believe it's like within 30 minutes. Very quickly we went through it. So thank you again, Workiva and Nathan, for the amazing partnership in the conversation, and for everyone continue to watching. Enjoy the week. Thank you so much for making the time. We'll do these every Monday. Again, next week we'll have another one. If you want to follow ISV Success Live, that's the hashtag. That's where we post these things. And then if you want to look at any of the other ones we've done in the past, aka.ms/ISV Success Live is just a compilation of all the amazing scenarios and solutions that we've hosted, including this replay that now will exist for Workiva. So please enjoy this video, and thanks again, Nathan. Take care.
Thanks, Brian.
Workiva ESG, trusted ESG reporting for a better world. Build trust with stakeholders by reporting with confidence, so you can walk the talk in driving business value while delivering profit and purpose. The Workiva ESG solution gives you what you need for trusted, transparent reporting. Browse our ESG Explorer to compare multiple frameworks in one place and access built-in templates so you don't have to report from scratch, even as your needs evolve to meet changing expectations. Empower your team to automate the collection of a full range of ESG data, collaborate across geos, and create disclosures on demand. Plus, seamlessly embed links to show evidence of your progress. Capture change history with a complete audit trail for assurance, and set controls for authorship with accountability for reporting your stakeholders can trust. See how you can transform your ESG reporting and deliver investor-trusted, board-ready, and audit-ready ESG reporting with Workiva.